All right, there we go. Away we go. Welcome, everybody, to today's call. It is Friday, October the 4th of 2019. This is the TRC sales training call. You know it's my favorite day of the week. And we are off of TRC Live, our live event this past weekend. So I think my voice is recovered well enough to get through this, no problem. But more importantly, I'm inspired by the work that we did this weekend. We had a lot of great people in the room who were serious about trying to get better at what they do. And I think that's a super, super important endeavor here. You got to be serious about this. This isn't a hobby. And on the sales training calls, we're trying to bring strategy into our whole realm of tactical, right? So you have the strategic approach to sales. If you're on either YouTube or Facebook today watching this, you'll be able to see in the background my whiteboard. And I dragged it over here for the sake that you can see that we do this every week. And every day I'm fresh off, literally fresh off the road from working with the buyer this morning. And I think one of the things before I get started in the tactical stuff today is just a quick reminder that when you are playing a strategic game like this, you really have to be rooted in the body of work and understand what you're doing. My mantra up on the board behind me, and if you're just listening in today, I'll repeat it. My personal mantra as the owner, I'll go there first, is to be a person for others. In other words, to be that servant mentality, to serve people in whatever context. Now, I have chosen real estate so that when I'm out in the field, just a quick reminder to myself that I am serving these people and that this is a big deal for people. They're determining where to spend a large chunk of their life, and especially in my Cape Cod business, that's a big life move for a lot of them. They can see the end of the road. In other words, the latter half, the golden years, whatever you want to call it, and they want to be happy and they want to be contented and they don't want to make a mistake. In Boston, it's all business for the most part, right? People really want to be there, but sometimes they don't think about the lifestyle also around where they will work. They need to play and they need to have life and they need to go out and take a left or a right. And if you don't know how to drive around the city of Boston, you don't know how far a walk is, that makes a big deal too. So when you're serving people, it's not always just about the product, it's about the lifestyle. And you have to be aware of stuff, even if you're unfamiliar with a particular neighborhood, to think through it with them. I think that's important. So to get back in touch with why you do this, for all of you team leaders, company owners, I think it's important to make sure that you are in turn, communicating your mantra with people. And by the way, Laura and I were talking, and Laura's been with me for, just a short 13 years, right, Laura? And so as we go through this, we made a commentary about our own book of business, how over time, she said, I don't know, how long ago would you say something changed? You thought it was about 7 years ago or so, 6, when we started the TRC?
Yeah, probably when I came back from Hawaii is when I saw the biggest shift.
Yeah, and that was probably how long ago now?
6 years ago.
Yeah, so it's interesting. 6 years ago, when Laura had taken a hiatus, she got married and moved to Hawaii. Her husband at the time was in the service, and so they had moved. And she had known us prior to that as a certain kind of company. And she says it was much more transactional. Not that I ever changed wanting to be a person for others, but you can begin to behave a certain way in sales, and it comes off a certain way, and that's transactional. And there's nothing wrong with transactional. Without transactions, there is no business. And let's not be naive. Without any business, there is no money, there's no cash flow. So it becomes a very important part of the process, of course. However, you can still do a lot of transactions if you start off by caring for people, right? I don't think a lot of people recognize the power in sales to just simply care, to go out, to care. I cared so much this morning about where we were going that I got up early and I went by every single house we were going to see. It didn't take me long. They're all pretty close together. So in probably a half-hour warm-up, I went through. I looked at the pluses and minuses of some of these streets that I wasn't familiar with, where the beach was, and I indulged myself in that process so that when we hit it, I was prepared. Think about a professional athlete watching a lot of film prior to the game. Sometimes it's good to practice this. Don't always go do it blindly and hope something happens. Be prepared like a pro athlete, okay? All right, now I'm going to get into this call here today, and what I'm asking for is volunteers. Again, we're fresh off of the TRC Live event, so if any of my main mastermind members who are in attendance or their agents want to ask me a question, we'd love to take it on the outside sale today, but also, of course, inside sale sets up the outside. So I'll take whatever, but I'm looking for volunteers. Don't go deaf mute on me if you can. That would be helpful, okay? So I'm going to open up the mics. Remember, *6 you mic if you're in a busy spot. That way we won't get blown up with background noise and we can keep everybody interactive. All right. All right, anybody up first with a sales challenge? And I'd love to go outside sales today, at least for part of the call, beginning or the end. But I'm happy to start either way, depending on who volunteers first. As they all flood me with questions, Laura. They're so hungry, aren't they? Yeah, because you don't have any questions. Come on, guys, let's go.
Can you hear me?
I can. I get you now, darling.
All right. So kind of it's more telemarketing geared.
Sure, good.
I had an What's that?
Good. I'm good. Good.
Okay. I had a really awesome interview.
Hold on. Somebody's got a hammer. Guys, if you're just banging around in the background, mute your mic, please, okay? Lindsay wants to ask me a question, right? Let's just take a minute. Let's take a breath. Everybody sit still so we can hear what she's going to ask. All right, go ahead, Lindsay.
So I had a really awesome interview with a potential telemarketer that we're touching base again on Monday.
Sure.
But my issue that I'm having right now is I think she'd be awesome. She's been in real estate on and off since the 70s. She's an older gal, like grandma personality, very caring and soft. But my issue is, how do I get started? I know I asked, what are the dialers you guys use, because we've never used a dialer. How do I implement or get her set up so I can hire her?
Yeah. I think it's
makes sense what I'm asking.
Yeah, for sure. Well, sort of, but I get where you're going, because I mean, obviously, this is what we talked about, right? Is that here's the moment where there's somebody good. You and Alan having that same kind of moment where, oh my gosh, I got somebody's good. Now, am I really prepared to bring this person on? So the irony is, it's this whole setup to sell this person to come into you, to go into sales, and you're going, oh my gosh, what are the sales tools? I think that's a great question. Here's what I think matters most. Who will she be calling? And what is that lead source, right? You can get somebody to come in a sales situation on the inside sales, but there has to be contact information and context within which she's calling. So it starts off with quote unquote lead generation. But as we know, lead generation is not what we always think it is. It's contact acquisition. So you can do that through lead capture or through a service like a Vulcan 7 or RedX, like in All the Leads. I think that's first and foremost. Now, when you cheat to those companies, some of them, for example, Vulcan 7 has a single dialer built in. So you don't necessarily need to use it. And furthermore, one of the things, just because you don't know how to do something, one of the reasons we're bringing somebody in is so that person can help us understand how to do something. So even if in the beginning you're having that person do some of the research for you to set up for sales success, that's fair, because there's always a certain administrative side to this. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I was perfectly honest with her in the interview, because she actually called me off of the Indeed ad, and then she actually followed up twice because I was in Boston, and she's like, are we for sure set for Wednesday? I said, yeah, we can do Wednesday. So she came into the office, and I was perfectly transparent with her. I said, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. I know exactly, I have a very big picture in my head of what I want this to look like, but there's going to be growing pains, and I'm not 100% sure how to get from where I am right now to that place. And so just know coming into this that it's not going to be perfect. And you might get frustrated with me. I might get frustrated, and she was 100% on board with that. But my insecurity is starting to come forward, and it makes me really nervous because I go, and we talked about it in the room, I go back to, holy shit, I'm not ready to do this.
Yeah, okay.
And so I'm trying to just fall forward. And I know she's going to call expireds, and I know she's going to call probate.
Well, stop there. Hold on. Stop there. You're trying to, like, when somebody comes into a sales position. I mean, I thought Laura did a good job of throttling back the other day because, the expired contact information in a certain area can be like the tide. It can ebb and it can flow, right? So all of a sudden going into the summer, there was a bunch of expireds from the winter. Then there weren't a lot. And then all of a sudden going into the winter, there'll be a lot. I mean, wasn't there like 8 the other day, Laura, right? I mean, so it ebbs and it flows. But you're like, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this, and then this.
Yeah.
That's what gives everybody anxiety.
I like it all ironed out, and I like to know A to B to C to D.
There's no such.
That's where I get my confidence from.
But no such thing. No such thing. And it's a false sense. You're trying to make a sales situation perfect. When somebody comes into that sales seat, it's perfect is what your problem is, because all of the ideas, this is why people say, well, I'm not there yet. We'll get to step one. Anybody can take one step forward. So all you have to determine in sales, and this is for everybody listening too, is that if they're doing it themselves or they're hiring somebody like you, look, we go back to what we did yesterday in the mastermind. What is the number one avatar that you want? Let's start there. We have 3 avatars in this business. We are hiring or trying to find sellers, buyers, or agents. That's it. You have 3 choices as to what you're trying to go after to grow this business. So forget about hiring somebody to help you because you're more the GM than the salesperson. What is the one thing you're after? And you work backwards there. So answer that question. And this is just you.
Sellers.
Okay, good. So sellers now.
For me or for the telemarketer?
No, whoa. One and the same. You're the boss. You're the boss. Why are we letting the tail wag the dog? You're the boss. You're the visionary. So your decision is, and slow down, see how quickly you're talking through your nerves of your vision? Grant had this right too. The problem is we don't know where we're trying to get to. So we come into the sales situation guessing. And that's just going to start like you're going to be like hen pecking. You're going to jump from, you're going to peck here, not enough worms. Run over here, peck there, or lily pads. Not enough, flies on this one, hop. Flies, nope, hop. Right. So the problem is in sales, nobody's picking a dang lane. And so you as the manager, you're looking at a 17 lane highway. No wonder why your brain is blowing up. And your desire to try to harness it all at once is absurd. Think about it. You're a cowgirl out there in Boise, Idaho. How many cattle can you rope at a time? One. So what are you going to lasso for the type of seller first? What's the first choice? You have to know what you're going after. Who is it?
The avatar?
Who is it?
Is that what you're asking?
A seller avatar. I'm seller. Now I'm going one level deeper. I need a context. What is your preference? Yours. What is it?
So the avatar that we're looking for, their names are Shane and Teresa, and they are 50 years old. They're in their second house, ready to downsize, getting close to retirement. They have money.
What's the easiest way to find them? Now go context. We got avatar. What's their context? What's the easiest way to find them in Boise, in the geography, in the price range? What is it?
Expired.
Okay. You don't question mark it. You question marked it. So as if I'm trying to lead the witness to a right or wrong answer. I'm not. I'm asking you to take terra firma, like put your feet under you and answer my question.
Well, for us, it would be expired.
Okay. Why?
Because we know that they've tried to sell and they ultimately want to sell. It just didn't go the way they had planned. Okay, let's challenge it. Is there anybody else where these people could be, any other context where these people could be found easier, less expensively, and more effectively? Anywhere you can think of. Challenge it for a second so you own it. Yes or no? You're overthinking. No.
You're overthinking. Stop overthinking.
Well, I don't know.
Yeah, our business only provides, some obvious things. Is it because somebody's dead? Is it because they're in trouble? Is it because you're just calling into a geography? See what I'm saying? You just have to simply say, I want a seller. They sound and look like this. Okay. And you just described your avatar beautifully. Now I just need context, because you can't just guess at a geography, even if you've narrowed it down. You have to find context. So look, it's almost like you just can't get the confidence to answer the question for yourself. State the obvious. I'm going after expireds because they're the easiest to find. And I can just buy a contact service that will give me their names and tee them up. And that service also happens to have a single dialer in it. I'm done. Why is there more to the conversation than that?
Well, I don't know.
It's a good question. I know, because it's a cognitive distortion that you believe that once you take a step, you need to have all these things. If you hire a telemarketer to assist your company with sales, you believe beyond just having the right person, it's your founder. So you blew the dog whistle, for this real hybrid to only hear it. And that telemarketer hears it. They come and they hunted you down. Wonderful sign that we're on the right track. And then they sit and you have this like conniption moment. It's almost like Alan did, where he ducked it and you start to call him, look, I don't really know what's going on. And if you come in here, there'd be a lot of problems. Just state it. Say, look, the very first thing that we're after are sellers. And we believe that seller looks just like this. And we believe that the fastest path to find that seller would be through expireds. And we believe in our mastermind that one of these tools, such as Vulcan 7, is probably the best tool. Now, I see you have a resume here. Any thoughts about that? You've done cold calling before. Have you had any experience with dialers, single dialers? Did you do it from your phone? So now you're just looking for a match, but you're the one that's in complete control of it. And an elevator speech or shorter, you're able to state where you stand. Slow down.
Right.
Everybody, slow down and state it. Here's where we want to do business. We want to go after sellers. We believe that the best seller for us sounds like this. They're 55 years old. They're downsizing, and the way that we think the fastest path to finding them is they've already tried to sell unsuccessfully. It's called an expired in our business if they don't have real estate, experience. And we find that one of these services that can go out and look for them can from time to time deliver a good batch of them, and then we just go through them. Done. That's your dissertation for lane 1. Stop talking about 17 lanes to people, because then you sound like you're not in control as the captain of the ship. You got me?
Right. Yeah.
And there's no more to it. Yeah, and there's no more to it than that. Now, if that person comes in and you're pounding away and they're getting on these calls and we're recording them, we're hearing the other side of the Boise, Idaho conversation with expireds who fit the avatar, then we can make little slight adjustments. You've got the materials that you're going to send out, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So you're already prepared for that too. So the only thing that's pausing all this is you, right? That's it.
Yeah, my own damn way.
Yeah. Well. It's not a bad thing. You're wanting to be good in advance. You don't want to look. Everybody. It really is actually selfish, because most of us that are after perfectionism, that's a selfish thing. That I'm not going to do this stuff. Same thing for anybody that's on this call that's making their own phone calls. Okay, and not doing it. The bottom line is, well, I've got a. There are people out there that need to be helped every day. They're called sellers who expired inside your geography, and they fit the description of your ideal client. And every minute of every day that goes by that you don't throw your hat in the ring to try to help them, you've done the world a disservice, especially if you come on these calls and you're in this mastermind and you know how to help. I'm not even saying get the listing yet. I'm saying you know how to help those people make a decision, not only about you, but about anybody, including doing nothing at all. You know what USP means, right? Why should I do business with you above and beyond all other options, including doing nothing at all? Period.
Right.
So if you can be the one that steps in there and just gives information, which you can in right now without a telemarketer, great. So the only thing that you're trying to do to protect the growth of the company is add telemarketing. You actually have an opportunity to create a job for an independent contractor in Boise to go out there and be an ambassador of goodwill in the context of real estate. So every minute that goes by with all this nonsense we're hurting the public. You got it?
Yep, I like it. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a burden.
Thanks for walking me through that.
Yeah, well, it's good. But again, stop trying to play in 18 lanes. That's the first one. Now envision your future and say, okay, I get what he's saying. Let's get in a rhythm here. Let's see how long it takes to get in a rhythm. And if she's smashing it and she's staying on top of all of the expireds in all of the geography in all of Boise that you cover, then you consider lane number 2, which is what? What would lane number 2 be for Lindsay? What are you comfortable adding for sellers? What would it be?
Agents.
No, stay with the telemarketer for a second, then I'll go to agents with you.
Oh, probate.
Okay.
Would be the next one.
Okay, good. Do you have the probate materials ready to go?
I have to have the probate infographic printed, but outside of that.
Get it, because then it allows you to be as thoroughly prepared as you need to be to open up lane 2 when lane 1 feels comfortable. We don't perfect lane 1 either. We just make sure we're on top of lane 1 because there'll always be distinctions and improvements. But once you feel a flow happening in that and there is yield or return on investment, you open up the second lane. This is how we don't swallow 17 lanes at once and get the egg stuck in our throat, right?
Okay, yeah.
Now, I will deal with selling yourself to agents. Get the offer ready. See, the offer is where you were stuck on this one here too. You didn't really know what you were offering the telemarketer. You're offering the telemarketer an opportunity to sit down, plug into a system like Vulcan, use the single dialer, use the script, and start calling these people trying to get a package out the door and then follow up with another phone call to try to get an appointment booked. That's it. That's your offer to that person. And in exchange for that service from that independent contractor, you are willing to pay a stipend plus a piece of the commission. That's it. That's an offer, right? And to a telemarketer, it's an offer that converts the more clear it is what they plug into. But if all you're sitting down yakking at this person, I'm not trying to be derogatory, but that's what we do. We yak at people. We throw up all over them. Hey, thanks for coming. You look like the exact right person from the exact right ad. Let me throw up all over you about all the screw ups in my head. Instead of just saying, logically speaking, and I do it too, right? Logically speaking, here's the offer. This is how I set you up for success as a telemarketer in the context of real estate. What do you think? Questions about that? Thoughts about that? How could you apply your past experience to that? Does that excite you? Now we're just looking for a fit, right? But you know what you need. Just clarify the offer, because that's what sales are. You're simply saying, here's the offer. Look, go to the expired now. It's no different. That's the offer that converts the telemarketer to want to join you, the one with experience, okay? Because it's clear. They can see themselves set up for success. Now switch to sellers. Now when the telemarketer gets on the phone, it's important to try, and phone work becomes very difficult. Hey, Lindsay, Danny Griffin calling from Griffin Realty Group. The reason I'm calling is because I saw your beautiful house online and I noticed it didn't sell. So I wanted to send you some information that'll help you sell it the next time, because I have a moral obligation, knowing what I know, to get this information in as many people's hands as possible in the geography where my business lies. Now, you wouldn't say all that, but that's the thinking point, right? So all I can do is all I can do at that first moment. But it takes the heat off of selling anything. I'm an ambassador of goodwill with information that empowers somebody to make the next decision, which is what? Do you want to invite anybody like me into your house to further explain how this relates to your specific situation, right? See, that's where we're going. We're always trying to, these pieces are interconnected. One is not separate from the next. So the way that you simply set up the telemarketer is so that she can simply set up the information going out, so that she can simply set up Tom to go out and see it, right? That's it.
Right.
Extremely simple. So your sale is simply explaining the clarity and the concision of your vision, which makes you unique. The more concise and clear you can make that, the better you will repel the wrong person and compel the right avatar into that. Somebody that appreciates systematic approach from the telemarketer to the seller. And then we add, because you mentioned it next, the agent. Why does an agent sit down with you? Because you make an offer that says, look, I know there's a lot of opportunities out there. There's all sorts of people making all sorts of promises. We promise you a plan. A followable, proven plan that will help you build your big book of business, even if it's from part-time to full-time. Would you like a copy of our plan? It's the same thing. So we just slow the process down so that at each point in conversion, we understand that we need to add value. It's an obligation for the salesperson to add value. You expect to go to the next level, then add value at each. We call it an offer that converts, but what kind of offer converts the best? The one that empowers and adds value the most at that contextual moment. Does that make sense, or did I say it too fast?
Yeah. No, I got it.
Cool.
I got it.
Good.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, bravo. Good work.
Sorry to hijack the call a little bit.
No, because it's a sales process. No matter whether you're hiring, that's a sale. You're selling somebody as to why they should join you. That's a sale. So how you do that really should be based on magnetic attraction. I mean, all this sales tactic and bullying basically is what it is. It's absurd when you don't need it. You just have to say, look, I have a plan for the telemarketer. I have a plan for the agent. I have a plan for the seller. I have a plan for the buyer. I have a plan. So let me show it to you. That's the starting point for conversion. This is what we believe in. So we make this offer and it helps us get to the next level. Make sense?
Yep. I like it.
And now
thank you.
And now you have a job. I know you're trying to get rid of me. I've heard thank you a couple times. Enough, Danny. Right?
Somebody else to talk.
Don't worry about it. The underlying mantra here is we have a plan for that. That's what makes you unique. We have a plan for that. No matter what the context of sale or conversion is, the more clear and concise the plan is, the better off you are. Okay? Now I will let you.
Annie?
Yeah, go ahead, Terry. You're up.
It's me. And she needs to also not be disappointed if it doesn't work out with this particular girl.
Okay, go further.
It doesn't mean that she
Why
failed.
does that strike you? Why does that strike you for her? Because you know each other and you're related. So why? You're about to give her some advice. Why? Why do you know that maybe she'll kind of be deflated if it doesn't work out? Why are you giving that piece of advice?
Because she already sounds like she needs to be perfect. And so I have this horrible feeling that I'm not saying it's going to, if this girl doesn't work out, she's going to internalize it and feel like, okay, this is because I wasn't prepared properly. I didn't do this and this is all my fault. And then it paralyzes me more. Correct. There are some of us out there that can do this and some that can't. And that's okay. I mean, I think Karen went through a couple people before she found me. And I don't even think she wanted to take a risk on me, if I remember correctly. This was like 6 years ago. Yeah. And, she was just like, no, I can't. And then she took the leap of faith. And I mean, we work really well together and I'm a go-getter and a self-teacher, but not everybody is that way. So there'll be growing pains even in finding somebody, and that's okay too.
Yeah. Okay. So stay with that thought because that's why I wanted you to go deeper into it. This is what happens to most salespeople in a sale. And again, there's always a sale moment in a variety of ways. Everybody wants to think it's about in the field. Did I sell the house today? Okay. That's a sales point. There's no doubt about it. But you're right. To bring in a telemarketer to sell them on why they can be empowered and successful with you is a sale. And there has to be clarity, concision about what the offer is and how you set them up for success. That is no different from a seller. And I'm going to give you an example of what Terry's saying about expireds. Okay. For years, I didn't pursue helping expireds. And the reason I didn't pursue them is because everybody got in my head that there was only one way to get expireds, and that was cold calling them and using this sort of muscular technique and all this NLP, which I didn't vibe with, and I never will. I think it's a farce. But instead of snapping back and saying, oh, I tried that once, it wasn't for me, it didn't work. Everybody listening to this knows they've said that out loud about some lane in this business. Oh, I did that, and it wasn't for me. BS. You didn't think your way to better. I'm calling myself out, okay? So when I sat down and I thought about a better way to convert people, I simply had to go back to my mantra, which is hanging over my shoulder for those of you watching on video, okay? Just be a person for others, and the rest will follow. That's what you do. You just go in and say, how do I become a person for others in the context of expireds? I don't need NLP. I don't need this muscle technique. I don't need to brutalize them. I'm not saying that people that use that doesn't work, but I don't need it. I just need to think, how can I be helpful? And that way it prevents the snapback effect. See, if somebody comes in and they don't fit the bill, that might just mean you just needed some slight adjustment. You needed to see it differently. Well, why didn't they work? Well, because you didn't think through what a true telemarketer was. That happened to us. We spent a year. We had 3 or 4 different hires because I was pushing it off to Laura because Laura was becoming that GM like you, right? And so what was she going to say? I'm not good at hiring a telemarketer? No, we just kept going back to the ad and saying, why aren't we attracting somebody with a resume for telemarketing who comes through the door already speaking that language? So that's an avatar for an independent contractor to be in sales. Why is it any different for the seller? Why can't you have an ideal avatar on the sell side who's expired and try to pursue that person? You'll know it when you're talking to them on the phone. So rather than saying all expireds, remember, Lindsay, the cognitive distortions that we taught, exaggeration, this one telemarketer didn't work, therefore I'm terrible at hiring telemarketers. This one expired didn't work and swore at me, therefore I must be terrible at getting them. You can see this, Terry and Lindsay, permeate an entirety of a business, right? And it's a cognitive distortion. The idea is to figure out how to make it work, right? Got it?
Yep.
Got it?
Agreed.
Cool.
I'm talking to you. You just can't hear me. Yes.
All right. All right. Keep going. Keep going. Next one. Good stuff. Who's up next? Come on. I got a bunch of people on the call. Go ahead.
I'll do one, Dan.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Hold on. Doug, I heard you and then somebody right after you. Who was that?
It's Passion.
Hi, Passion. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. You stay right there behind Doug. Doug's going to go first, then you're up, okay? So stay right there. Go ahead, Doug.
All right. So, Danny, I begrudgingly took your advice from our call the other day.
You have to fight me that much?
No, you don't. You don't. I'm just joking around. I was gonna say you gave me some stupid advice to go take a listing, and it wasn't actually stupid. It was. I really appreciate it. Tuesday morning, I went out and got the listing.
Yeah.
And I'm dealing with things right now that with the seller that I kind of expected. They kind of, they left town and it's all good. It's fine. But I had the experience today of sort of like being back in the game, and it was a really good feeling.
Perfect.
And even though this house is going to be a pain in the ass,
yep.
I'm excited to be back in the game. I just wanted to thank you for sort of nudging me in that direction.
Yeah, well, let me give them context because I think it's exactly on the tail of what I just said. I think this is really important. Your context is that you moved from San Diego all the way to Hilton Head, South Carolina, okay? So you made this massive move from one side to the next side, right? So ultimately, you almost start from scratch. It's extremely easy, ladies, because we were talking about this, for a pro like this to snap back. This guy has a super high IQ in general, let alone in real estate. So somebody came to him and they were in a semi-distressed situation, a little bit outside of his avatar, but somebody that really could use his help and his guidance, right? She really could. So ultimately, he was going through this, and it was almost like he was just guiding her and giving her some advice about, somebody was kind of making a halfway offer. And I said, wait a minute, what's going on here? Like, you're almost talking yourself out of the business while giving her advice, where the best advice you could do is say, look, here's how we're going to deal with the builder. We're going to put it on the market. We're going to see what else is out there. We're going to create this, and I'm going to help you. And so here you are trying to get a book of business, and somebody falls in your lap that needs help. And yet you get up in your head, even as a pro, and you don't get that chemical drip going in your head of helping people. This is this reconnection to what we're really doing here. See, you can always have time to move up the ladder when you're trying to improve your business. I'd like to move up my average sale. I'd like to do business with a better avatar who appreciates my plan. Sure. But if anybody drops on your doorstep and needs help, it should not matter to us from a moral obligation standpoint who they are, where they're from, and what it is. It's 101 in real estate discrimination, number one. But number two, more importantly, that's the calling. That's the privilege of license. But the selfish benefit is that the minute that I say something, okay, the minute that I say something, and do something, and I take an action step, something in my head changes. So, Lindsay, that first hire is a positive chemical drip. And then if I can repeat it over and over, then it becomes an addiction to helping people. Then from a strategic standpoint, you can begin the steering of your business in the direction you want it to go. But in the beginning, man, you got to win a victory. So thank you for sharing that. I know that gal's in super good hands because she was begging for you to list her, right? Begging almost, right? Right.
Well, here's what I was doing, Danny. I was finding reasons not to do it. And look, if you ask me, is it the perfect scenario for me to have a listing? No. It's 45 minutes from my house, and it's a lower price range, and all that stuff aside. I mean, I was thinking about those things, but I realized, like, okay, well, look, I'm selling something that's it's going to take me 45 minutes to get to. Who cares?
Yeah.
So, I can be on the phone when I drive there. And, I was so concerned with, having my first sales be really good ones. And I'm like, this is just stupid thinking because I just got to go out there and get a deal done for this girl.
Yeah.
So, I think she actually, like, she's really going to benefit, but they left the house in shape where I'm sitting there like trying to find a cleaner to come take care of it. But I'm like, okay, I've done this for so many years for REO people. What the hell's the difference?
Yeah. Right.
So I was happy to be out there. I mean, the house smells like it had 3 German Shepherds in it, and it did.
Yeah.
And I'm still going to go, and I'm going to do the open house and have it ready, and I'm going to sell her house.
Yeah. Right.
So
right. You're gonna help her. Right. So bravo. Yeah. I love it. Only good things can follow. But it's funny how we can be so self-defeating so quickly. And you can hear it here today. And I thank Terry for jumping in there and recognizing it because, Terry, you've had that struggle as you've gone into areas of discomfort yourself in different lanes. Like I was saying to Lindsay, okay, you open up this one lane that everybody's uncomfortable. We get in it. It becomes familiar, not easy, right? So we get in that lane and we start to get that going. Then we can start to open up another lane. It's the same thing. If we start by, this is for a new agent or somebody who's moved, you got to get that first deal going. There's just something magical about that first deal of helping somebody that begins to change in your brain. And it says, hey, this feels right. And this is why I do this. All right, cool, Doug. That was a good share. Passion, you're on deck.
Hi, Danny.
Hi, how are you? By the way, I always give you great credit for following the yellow brick road and getting that guy to say, hey, you're the 34th, but I like I like your approach. I just think that was a poignant moment in this group. So there's my 5 gold star moment. So how can we go forward and help you next?
Sorry, my phone was.
Can you hear me?
Maybe I can't. Okay, can you hear me?
Oh,
It was kind of hard to hear you.
Yeah, that's way better. I was saying 5 gold star moment because you were the one that was able to cut through and prove me correct. Thank you. And we'll expose that proving correct. And it's not for my own glory. It's to say, look, I try to tell everybody, here's somebody that didn't know real estate but had telemarketing background, picks up the phone and is number 34. And the guy tells her that you're number 34, but he puts a capital B-U-T and he says, but I like your approach. Yeah. Did I get that story right?
Yeah, thank you. Well,
I'm curious what happened with that one.
Hold on. All right. Hold on, Laura. I'll ask her that.
He hasn't. Well, with that one, he hasn't answered the return call. But the problem that I'm having is that I'm barely getting in contact with maybe 1 or 2 people a week. Is this normal? Like I'm calling all the people in Vortex maybe 6 times now, 3 times.
Yeah.
And I'm not getting through to anyone anymore.
Okay. All right. Hold on. How many phone calls? I need metrics. I can't just blindly say it. What do the metrics look like?
1,600 calls, and maybe I only spoke to maybe 20 contacts.
Okay. Are you varying the times?
Well, I work from 9 a.m. to 6:30 every day, pretty much.
Okay. So any Saturday calling?
Yes, I do Saturday calling as well. And I try to call everyone that I've already spoke to before on a weekend day just to make sure that they would pick up or something like that. But I'm not getting any luck. And when I called the board, when Will and I contacted Vortex, they said their percentages is anywhere between 1 to 3% of the people may not answer. So I just wanted to know
All right, we'll get up,
what
well,
should I do now?
Well, you got to get on your cell phone too. You got to mix up the telephone lines and the telephone calls. I know yesterday, you can't just stay on that number. And also, have you ever experienced it? In other words, have Will call you from that. Look what the number looks like. You call, Will from that. Let him look at it. You guys want to see what that number showing up looks like. And also, if you just, you have to mix it up. I mean, Autumn mixes it up. She's on her cell phone
all the time.
Yeah, she mixes it up all the time. How many different phones do you call from?
Well, my cell phone is one, and I've had a couple clients call me back on my cell because my name is there.
Sure.
No shame, not doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
My name, my number. I do leave messages, and then here the last time I checked, we switched up the numbers a couple of times. So I don't really know how many are going out here.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you something, I get really good response just calling from my cell and having my name and number show up.
Yeah. That's the first thing I recommend is I'd add my cell into the mix rather than just going through the machinery.
Yeah, I mean, they like that they know who's calling, even if they haven't met me.
Yeah, people are more likely to answer a personal text or a personal phone call than
Right.
they are anything else, right? So especially the people you've already spoken to, there's not that many of them, and that's an important second call to make sure that they've received your information and that there's a conversion for the nickel tour per se. So I would say definitely those people go from the cell phone, but try that. And the other thing is to be patient with it. It's maddening. I understand that. It's maddening.
Mm-hmm.
People are withdrawing more and more and more from all sorts of things, whether not opting into lead pages, whether not picking up the phone call. They're withdrawing more and more. There's no doubt about it. So it's just a diligence and it's a patience, right?
Okay.
I mean, again, I think the lead source is not going away. Now, one last variable. One of the things that we've talked about here is that there's always this, I think the best 1-2 punch is the direct mail combination with the telemarketed call of the same information, right? So Autumn's trying to question and with me whether or not we should be mailing in advance of the phone call so that if you leave a message, now there's name recognition if that package has arrived, or they can refer to the package arriving.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that raw just cold call telemarket alone has its challenges. And certainly in the face of not having as many people pick up, I think you're going to have to pay attention to having at least, and sit with Will, and Will make that business determination. What are the real cherry addresses to mail first and then call and test that microcosm of it? But the biggest advice I have is cell phone and vary the times. Okay?
And the road calls have screwed up all up. Because people get 5 to 6 road calls a day, and then they think we're one of those too.
Correct, and especially if it looks like machinery, because robocalls are made from machinery, so you can almost smell like this funky phone number coming in from a weird extension. Whereas if you're local, see, this makes the case for a local Arizona number, right? If you're local. And I see some cell phone extension that seems like it was picked up at the Verizon store in Phoenix, I'm more likely to not have that gut reaction. Because Terry's right, we're being conditioned by all the robocalling, which is just out of control, right? It's just machines calling.
Right.
So albeit we love these dialers, if anything, I would tell you, Autumn and I have sort of, she's morphed into it by herself, but I'm saying I totally agree with it. I'd rather she just chiseled away one by one than sometimes just triple dial. I mean, if the triple dialer can be helpful to her, I'm all for technology. But I think if you don't mix it up, you don't really know the difference. You follow me? So that real single, you got to pick up your chisel and hammer sometimes and call one at a time as a sampling, especially because you're putting in such a long shift of a long hour. There's no doubt that's a good thing to do, to sit down and do it. By the way, we think that shift's a little bit long. as one sitting. And boy, I God bless you if you're making that many phone calls in doing it. But I don't even know that might not be the problem. If you're sitting there banging away over and over and over at the same number in the same period of time, you might be being mistaken as a robocaller because you're pounding away that one day at that one number.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of variables here that could be at fault, right?
Okay.
But the number one thing you're not doing that I would definitely mix in immediately is don't look like a robocaller by single dialing off your cell phone and see what happens. And you have to have enough of those.
Can you do after dinner?
Yeah, go ahead. Say it again. Say it again.
Can you do after dinner? Because I have 4 kids, and so I'm trying to do all of this. And the last thing when I'm trying to get their homework done and do dinner and all of that jazz, I'm not going to answer my phone. But once all of that settles down, I'm more apt to answer my phone after time too.
I do it after dinner
So
all
you
the
think
time.
after
Did it last
6:30
night.
is okay?
Yeah,
or-
I make calls all the way up till 8 o'clock.
Yeah,
Okay.
I called 5 to 8 last night.
Yeah, well, look, over the years, over the 20 years.
till 7:30.
Yeah, cool.
I call till 7:30
Okay,
every day.
Perfect. So
Sure.
Rebecca's saying she calls till 7:30. Look, over the years, what I've found from my mentor to people in this group, I've seen people make that phone call 7 to 9, 6:30 to 8:30. I've always seen that was always some block of steady calling week after week after week. Remember, it is a consistency game. You can't just randomly start walking. You have to test like anything. So you pick whatever
Right.
days of the week you want to or can start with that. But let's just randomly say I've seen people go Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday morning. So I've seen that 7 to 9, or like I said, 6:30 to 8:30, somewhere in there. And then I've seen that 10 to 12 on Saturday morning, or go earlier before they even split their house, right? So you get that sort of,
Right.
I know it'll feel uncomfortable at first, but I could even say, make a case, cheat to 8:30 to 10:30 on Saturday mornings. You have a high likelihood that they haven't taken off for their errands, their trips, their games, etc. So you're going to definitely have to mix up those hours. Cool?
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Yep. Good. Awesome. You're welcome. And just keep going. Just keep going. It's a numbers game. And in this business, of all businesses, there's an ebb and flow. There are times it's just weird. Like I have a lot of people that I coach that had a very difficult spring, and everybody's having a busy fall. I mean, we have a chaotic fall going right now. Lots of people want to do lots of things. So there's an ebb and a flow. So there will naturally be those times where, Passion, you ever seen like how everybody seems to get the flu at a certain season, right? Or gets that fall cough? How does that happen across the country? I don't know. It's the natural ebb and flow of how things work. So you're going to hit some, soft spots, play through it too. Good job, though. All right, who's up next? Give me another scenario. Got another 10 minutes or so here. Laura, so the answer to your question was she didn't get the guy back on the phone. So I think the thing is she calls from a single dialer. Somebody give me a scenario here.
I just wanted to say thank you, Danny, for all your help last week. This is Rebecca. I did get a caller yesterday that actually wanted an in-house appointment yesterday. Like, they're like, can you come in the next few hours? And Gail was amazing. She hopped in there and popped on down there, and the guy was really nice and very amicable. And I think that your support last week really helped create that mindset for me.
Yeah.
And no, it seemed like magic yesterday when that guy was like, hey, let's just do this right now. So
Yeah.
thank you so much
You're welcome.
for making me feel welcome and encouraging me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I was glad you dragged your beaten down persona onto the call. You were brave enough to do that and say it, because actually, quite frankly, here we are a week later. And after the conference, Gail will go over this with you. There are a series of cognitive distortions. And see, you had a distortion about how things should work based on another experience that really doesn't align that well with this one, right? I mean, the expectations of solar sale versus a real estate sale, very different, right? The businesses are just very different,
Yes.
right? That's number one. So to
Yes.
so to get there,
Absolutely. And I had no point of
Yeah.
I had no point of comparison either.
Exactly.
So this is just what I was going off of. So, yeah.
Exactly. And that we only know what we know, right? So here we are a week later and you know differently. And to have that faith that if you stick to the plan, which is essentially what I was just saying, a passion, there are some variables that she should be cognizant of. There are some variables that she can work around, but to continuously execute that plan is very important. You can't stray from the plan until there's hard evidence to the contrary. In other words, if I pick up the phone and I say a certain thing and I record that phone call so that I can truly hear what I'm saying, I might perceive, oh, no, I stuck to the script. Really? Why don't you listen to yourself? Tell me where you can recognize the opening line. And a lot of people don't, because in the heat of the moment, we get emotional. We're excited somebody picks up. The opportunity is there, especially passion, dialing all these numbers, and bang, somebody picks up. It's easy for your logical brain to fall out one of your ears and you fall off the path. And then you say, well, here we go again. No, what did it sound like? How did it go on the other side? How did it go on the other side of the phone call, right? What did it really sound like when the consumer was confronted with the offer I make? You follow? It's all logic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, cool. But thank you so much for stepping up. Next, I'd love to have some of your recorded calls so we can indeed hear the other side. So that way we get into some more micro detail about how to be successful around the offers that convert, right? But get that first one out of your mouth. I said that to Jessica, who works with Adam Kuchik in Temecula. You can't start varying this first breath. There has to be something in it for them. And if you have a good list that you're calling, always be supplied with something that's in it for them. Otherwise, why would somebody continue to listen to you, right?
And Danny?
Go ahead, Gail.
So I did go, just blindly. I brought the 7-point strategic plan booklet newsletter. He's in Menlo Park, about 5-7 minutes from my office. I talked with him. He had already decided to go with Ken DeLeon. But I said to him, would it be okay if I follow up right now? I just want to look at your home, get a feel for what you want to do in the next part of the process. And I'm going to give him a call today, and I'm going to ask him if I could come over and show him exactly what I would do and show him what I think his home is worth.
Okay, what's in it for him? If he's already in his mind chosen somebody, just make sure there's something in it for him and recognize that he's chosen something. Say, I respect that you're drawn to Ken.
I did.
Okay. And so what is the benefit after he's made a choice to having you over?
Well, I think having a second opinion. So I emailed him. I said, I think, just an opportunity to have a second opinion on the strategy that I would use. And get to see him again. We had a great rapport with one another. He's like,
but hold on.
Rebecca said, he's really pleasant to be with, and he loves his house and all of that.
But Gail,
it's about $500,000 too much, but he'd be willing to do a strategy where you list it low to get multiple
Hold
offers.
on, Gail, hang on. So here's the deal. What I'm trying to emphasize to Gail right now and everybody is, see all that stuff that she just started to talk about? All of that stuff is filler. The most important thing here is that this guy has made a decision to choose Ken DeLeon, who is one of the studs out where Gail is, and she wants to still get in there. So you have to recognize the person's choice already. Say, I understand, right? This is what we talk about a lot, right? I understand that you've already made a decision and that you're going to have Ken over. I would still like to, if you don't mind, come over and tell you what I see, because I would believe that additional insight, even though you're going with him, would be helpful to you. Would that be okay? So that's where I'm coming from, Gail, is that you have to stop all that filler and that you liked him and it was this and it was that. Stop. Go right back to why would he even waste his time, and stick to that. Don't use all that filler. You don't need it. You simply have to say, look, I would like to come back over to add some additional insight I'm sure would be helpful to you. So in the case that maybe this doesn't work out with Ken, you understand where I'm coming from. And that's it. Just concision, like Autumn says. Just be to the point. What's in it for me?
I will. That was fillers for the phone call.
Yeah.
But I will be very concise with him.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
And the offer that converts is, I think it would benefit you to have some additional insight prior to listing, right? Mm-hmm. Awesome. And Rebecca, you understand that? When you get a call like that, where you're fighting for her to go in, where somebody has already chosen, per se, if it's not listed on the MLS yet, you're still fighting. It's still a hunt. It's still a possibility.
It's still the war.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So Rebecca, you lean in on those moments and say, look, we appreciate that. I hear you, and I understand that you've made a choice. What we find is that Gail still likes to come in and give you her unique insights. Ken has some insights. Gail has some insights. How would it not empower you even more to have two of the best people giving you their insights, right? So it becomes very rhetorical and logical, whereas it becomes very difficult to say no to that kind of offer. And that's what we've been working on at the mastermind level. What is the offer that truly converts? If it has a tremendous benefit to this person and you can express that in short order, your chances of getting in the house increase. Yeah? Got it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, good. Awesome. Because we want to fight. Look, I said this to Autumn the other day. I'll give you a little anecdote, okay? We know Autumn's good. She's got this long resume and stuff's happening. But the nuances of this are subtle. And I'm the leader and I have to empower her. So I happened to come in the other day and she was making a phone call. And the phone calls that she makes in the Boston market are much more difficult than they are in Cape Cod. People are short. Everybody's a know-it-all. It's a sprint.
They're rude.
Yeah, they're rude, right? Because it's just typical city. Everybody's got their answers. Nobody wants to. People in the city aren't afraid to slam the door on you because they've been getting inundated or they're frustrated. Okay, so she has an even shorter window there. So what happened though was, and this is what I was talking about, Doug. Celebrate the milestones. Just get somewhere first, right? Get to one offer. Well, the point is, here's Passion coming on. She's going to validate this. Passion comes on. There's been 1,600 phone calls and a couple of people. I would be all over more so. Well, what happened with the two? I want to know what happened with the two because it's still, if it took her 1,600 to get two, what was the quality of the two and what happened? So anyway, I'm listening to Autumn. Autumn gets this woman. The lady says, yeah, well, I'm going to keep it. Wonderful. Excellent. Sounds like your plans changed. And then the woman just kind of shuffles her off. And you know what I said? She was about to delete it. I said, no, let's go a little bit deeper. Let's not give up that easily. She answered the phone. She heard your voice. Send her the package anyway. Mm-hmm. Because that's a put off. No, I'm just looking. I love these ruby red shoes, says Dorothy, but I'm just looking at them. I don't want them. Not true. Not true most of the time. If she had motivation to sell it in that moment in time, the perseverant salesperson has the more highly likelihood of breaking through. To me, that's great news because she just did that to everybody else who tried to get to her. But the person that can mail her something that's helpful with a handwritten note, thank you so much for even taking my call the other day. I appreciate it in your busy life that you took my call. In the case that your plans do change and you do decide to resell it, I wanted you to get our best stuff. I'll be following up to make sure you got it. That's it. Now you give it a real opportunity to arrive. Everybody else has been scared off by this point in time because everybody's lazy after that first couple of calls, first couple of weeks. Now you're calling into a vacuum supported by a moment in time that you did have and you're reminding her. Why not? Give me a good reason why not. We shouldn't do that kind of stuff, right? You can't because you're fighting for these inches in a world that's continuously withdrawn. So the new aggressive doesn't mean be a pest like the robocaller. It means be strategically aggressive. Understanding what this person really is actually probably saying. I am frustrated. I didn't get what I thought I was going to get, okay? And I'm going to tell you that I'm going to keep it because right now I have to. Because I don't know a way out. So I'm going to tell everybody go away because that's my frustrated emotional reaction. Here we go being the real estate therapists that we are. So nice of you to share your anger with me. I appreciate you unloading it on me. But just in case that anger comes down and suddenly you find yourself going, shit, what am I talking about? I really do need to sell. And here's our booklet already sitting there. And here's our concierge tone letter saying, just thank you for picking up the phone. I appreciate it. I'm the telemarketer killing myself. I just appreciate you picked up the phone so I didn't have a skunked day where I'm depressed because nobody picked up the phone. And again, I'm giving you all the rhetorical background stuff that you need to hear this so that you persevere. And this is why I say, if you're making telemarketing calls or you're going into these houses and you can't give materials that add additional insight, that's the problem to begin with, right? You have to know what of value you're offering, and then you have to be able to give them something that expresses that if you want to go deeper into relationship, all right? So this week, as you go forward, make sure you're not stuck on your offer, okay? Your offer is what you're making when you pick up the phone. If you are just giving rhetoric and technique to try to get somebody to convert, you're missing something big. And it's called that item of value, that insightful piece of information in the information marketing age, and you don't have it, come on, fix that hole. And if you're on my watch, you know what we have. So you just come to me and we give it and we coach you on it. All right. All right, everybody, thank you for participating today. That's 1 hour even, so I'm going to call it right there. Appreciate it. Next time, be ready to ask your questions because I answer the ones that I get. So don't learn from the bleachers, learn from the front row. Appreciate you all, ladies especially. Good job today. See you on the other side.
Thanks, Danny.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Good job. You're welcome.
Thanks, Danny.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Yes, T, you're welcome.
Up at 4 and got to run in. We'll pick up at 5.
What the heck was that? Laura, what do you think about a CMA that's 3 other places at lower price in his same building?
Perfect.
Yep, that's what I thought too.
Yep.
I only have 3, but
Laura going at it out in the hallway.
Yeah, Laura, what the hell?
Sorry.
I thought you were in trouble.
I was talking to Joseph.
I know. We know who you were talking
That
about.
was a client?
No,
No.
the agent.
No. It's Mr.
Is
Ego.
he our agent?
I set her up to attack.
I do that.
I fed her a piece
You
of raw
just
meat before
stop.
it went down. I set her up. I'm the one that turned her loose.
Yeah.
And I was
I
laughing
thought
my ass
You know,
off.
when Janice told me, she goes, you know, I don't really know you all that well, but you seem like the sleeping tiger. I'm like, yeah.
If people only knew how we fight for them for nickels and dimes.
So I'll give you the short and skinny of it. They want to just give us a $500 credit. He's giving us shit because we didn't have a professional look at it and give us a quote. They just pulled a quote out of their ass. And
Oh, because he's so professional. His standard for profession is just so fucking high. Right?
I'm like,
you guys
okay.
are bad.
You want us to get a professional in there, not sign the P&S today?
Yeah.
He's like, well, I'm not sure my clients would give you an extension.
Oh, really, Joe? Stuff the fucking house up your fucking ass and go tell them you did it.
Like, oh,
Yeah.
that like
So
started
who
making my
is this